We are going to start streaming here, and we are going to go live in just about 2 seconds. And sometimes this part of me talking is going out. Awesome. Hey gang, this is Andy over at Falco K9 Academy. We are here again for Falco K9 Dog Talk News, and we have a bunch of stuff to talk about today. So much stuff. So much is happening in the news. So much is happening around the world with dogs. So much is happening here. I just cannot. I cannot tell you how many things are going on. As a matter of fact, I probably don't have enough to fit in the show. As a matter of fact, I'm going to probably do a couple more live broadcasts. Either later on today or over the next couple days, because I just cannot fit it into one broadcast. And some of it has to do with training. Some of it has to do with 4th of July and that kind of stuff. For sure, we're going to talk a little bit about 4th of July today and how you can get your dog ready and some of the things you can do. And I'm actually going to read from an article so that you know it's just not me spouting off just things that I think are true. It's another dog trainer that I found in another story that talked about very similar things. So I'm going to read from hers, and I'm going to mostly agree, if not agree entirely with her article. And then we're going to talk about therapy dogs in senior living facilities. And of course, we just lost a dog here in Long Beach just this week to being shot and killed in the line of duty. So we have a ton of stuff to talk about. Those of you that don't know who I am, my name's Andy, and I'm the owner of Falco K9 Academy. We have live training here with pets, and we have trained police dogs for years. That was my main business, with training police dogs, detection dogs, and bomb dogs. It then kind of got into some other areas like training mold detection dogs to find mold in homes and buildings and that kind of thing. And then we got into the peanut detection with a young girl who had allergies to peanuts. We ended up being on National Geographic in a show called Showdown of the Unbeatables, and we won, and that went really, really well. You can find that one on Netflix, so go ahead Netflix and go ahead and find Showdown of the Unbeatables. With Cesar Millan, we did a show called Love My Pitbull. You can find that on YouTube, and it airs every so often on Nat Geo. At least it used to. I'm not sure if it still does. It still has relevance today, and that was a pretty good show about pit bulls. It talked a lot about the history. As a matter of fact, much of the history that you hear Cesar talking about, I told him, and he used it. So I go, hey, wait a minute. I talked to him about that, about it being the nanny dog, as that's the name of the dog before it became the fighting dog. It actually was the babysitter for dogs while the parents worked in the fields and that kind of stuff. So it would be back at the home taking care of the children. So the dog has a strong history. Now, a lot of things have been done since then to create problems with the breed and that kind of stuff, and that's a whole nother subject. And what else? I was telling you about, what we do here. And we've had other shows. We've been on the Hallmark Channel and that kind of stuff. So we've been around for quite a while. Make sure and subscribe to this show. That way you can get announcements that we are going to be on, because every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, we bring dog news to you and make sure you're up to date on things that are going on. I will read the story and then talk about my opinions, which you can agree with or not, and you're more than welcome to go ahead and share those opinions. Write them into your comments, whether you agree or not, that kind of stuff, and I'm more than happy to discuss them. Not disgusted. I might be disgusted, but we can discuss them and see, if we can come to some agreement or whatever. It's not. It doesn't hurt my feelings if you don't agree with me, and I'm more than happy to look at other points of view. That's one thing that I want to make sure that everybody is aware of. That I love learning new stuff. So you have something to teach me, or something that is just it's just slipped past me and I didn't know it. But I've been in the business a long time. I research. I study for this show and look at new stuff all the time. So. All right. One of the things that obviously is of a concern is the 4th of July coming up. And so what I'm going to do is bring in an article here that I found and hit that topic right away before I lose any of you. Hopefully I don't. Hopefully you'll stay to the end, because we're going to talk about the Long Beach police dog and some of my opinions about that incident and the trainers that are involved in training police dogs today and what I think should happen. So let's go ahead and go to the 4th of July, and we're going to go to the article here regarding 4th of July. And I'm just getting my computer ready so you can also see the article. So there's an article. that dog trainer Denise Mullenix in Portland, Oregon gives food treats to Browser. I thought it was Bowser. Browser? Maybe Browser browses through stuff, and that's why his name is Browser. I thought it was Bowser when I first read this. As she works to desensitize him before fireworks go off. All right, so headed out to enjoy some of the Triangle's many fireworks displays this weekend. Keep your canine companions in mind. It's likely they are not big fans of holiday pyrotechnics. Pets disturbed by fireworks often get free and run loose, and even those that don't run away may act erratically, eating and chewing things they normally wouldn't. The 4th of July is one of the busiest times of the year for animal shelters. 3 years ago, even a border collie mascot of the Durham Bulls ran off after being scared by post-game holiday fireworks. He was gone 4 days before being found. A New York Times story this week reported that 40% of dogs experience noise anxiety, according to some studies. Dogs receive a larger auditory range than humans, and when they experience anxiety, they often go into full flight mode, seeking refuge from overwhelming noise. So I'm gonna scroll down here, and I'm gonna put the links to these stories into the feed later on into the comment section after I get done with the show, so you can read the rest of the story. So here are some of the tips that keep your pet safe for the 4th. Don't take them outside where fireworks are going off. Good idea. At home, put them in a crate or sleeping area where they feel comfortable. Give them their favorite treat or chew toy that will help keep them distracted. Be careful of opening and closing your home doors frequently. This can provide opportunity for frightened pets to bolt. If you get a particularly susceptible, if your pet is particularly susceptible, wow, that's a mouthful, to noise, consider products such as secure pet vest or even prescription sedatives. All right, so those are all great tips, and I love the tips that they give you there, and but they're not for every dog. So I just want to make sure that you understand that there's some things that you need to also consider. So sometimes I read things and they write things down, and people just say, well, that must be the right thing for every dog. And no, not necessarily. So the desensitizing of the dog using fireworks, that can work if your dog is not like just manic and super fearful. We had a German Shepherd come here not too long ago, and the dog was so afraid of fireworks that it just went crazy. It was hurting itself. It would be in a kennel and it would chew its way out, which is I'm going to talk about in putting your dog into the crate thing. It would chew its way out and actually break its teeth trying to get out. That's how fearful this dog would get. We tried desensitization. She brought the dog to us, and we said, well, what we do with police dogs is that we take them into a pistol range, and we start from a distance while people are firing off their guns, and we give them treats and play with their toy and that kind of stuff. And then as we get closer, we do obedience, and then obviously the noise gets louder, and then we do give them treats, and we continue this training, and we do it for a long period of time, only if the dogs aren't crazy, just over the top sensitive to noise, right? And then we get the dogs over it. My police dog, we could do obedience, we can down, sit, stay while gunfire is going off just a couple feet away from him. And you don't want to do that too often because it can eventually be harmful for the dog. But the way that their canals are made up, because we asked veterinarians and talked about it, is that the sound does not hit directly on the eardrum. That is the thought. That's the thing we were told. So we would also put a little bit of cotton. You take a long cotton, and not just a cotton ball. Never put just a cotton ball in your dog's ear because it could get in there and you can't get it out. You want the long cotton and stuff in the end, leaving a little bit hanging out. That way you can pull it all out. That's really, really important. And so we would do that with the dogs also. And sometimes that would help. So desensitization will work for some dogs if you can get your dog through the process. If you have a dog that's just fighting, biting at the leash and trying, stop. You're over stimulating that dog, and it's just not going to work, and that dog just is not going to ever probably get over that noise because it is way over the top. There's a line, right? If your dog is under the line, work with it, get the dog over it. If the dog is over the line, then you have to look at something else. So put the dog in a crate or in a sleeping area. That is really good. Sometimes the dog being secured in a crate is really good. Now, we have other dogs who just go crazy in a crate and they try to bite their way out. They hurt their teeth, just like I talked about that German Shepherd. So if your dog is like that, the crate doesn't work, right? You may not want to put them into a room where you like the stuff in there because the dog may tear apart the things and tear down the curtains and that kind of stuff. So be very careful about doing that with your dog if that's the reaction that your dog gets, right? So if your dog does well in the crate, goes in his crate on his own and likes the crate might be the perfect place. And even if there are fireworks going off, the dog feels secure. Maybe you got a blanket in there. Maybe you got a couple treats, a chew toy, something like that, that will just calm that dog down. That may be a very good place for that dog to be. So crate, I like that one. Give the dog its treats or its toy, and that works too. But some dogs under stress they don't want anything to do with their treats or their toys. So that may or may not work. Be careful. Yeah, this is the best one right here. Be careful about opening and closing doors in your home on a dog that's scared. They will literally run out, and they've never had before. If you have a dog that never runs out the door during the fireworks, if they're just crazy afraid of the sound of fireworks, they will run out and they are off. And they're so confused they may not even go the places they normally go. Remember that most often when dogs get out, they're seeking another dog or a cat or a squirrel or just a tree to pee on that the other dog peed on that walked down the street earlier in the day. But when they're running because of fireworks, they're completely different. They are just looking for a place to get away from the fireworks, and now they'll do things that they normally do. And your normal places where they go, they will not be there. They're going to be somewhere else, and they'll run out in the street. They'll do all kinds of crazy stuff. So be very careful about that. And consider other products like Secure Pet Vest or even prescription sedatives. Yes, you want to make sure and consider that. Now, my friend Sally Frost, who's on right now, I texted her earlier today because she's a specialist in essential oils. Wow, almost forgot. Essential oils. And we did a little interview with her and her partner at their essential oil shop there in Huntington Beach. Sally, send me the name of your place because I forgot the name of it. It's something skin. Shoot, forgot the name of it. Send me the name of it. So I wanted to be reminded, and I was corrected. It's lavender. So lavender essential oil is the thing that you're going to want to have handy for your dog, and you can put it on the dog's paws. We did a demonstration on the interview of putting it on the dog's paws and making sure that the dog had the oils in the right place so that we get in the skin and get kind of in the dog, and the dog actually can smell the odor of the lavender. That's a calming. Some of you have lavender in your house because it's calming. You can spray it in the air, and that's called diffusing. I had to ask her what that meant. It's diffusing. Spray it in the air. The dog smells it in the air, and it gives it a little bit of a calm to the dog. And so that is really another great tip. Some dogs, I'm sure, have a great reaction to it. And that will be enough to calm them down. Let's see. And there was another one here. There's another one, and I can't. Another thing. I'm actually gonna see if I can't interview the folks that have this drug, and it really is a drug. It is marijuana based, and you can give it to your dog, but you have to give it to your dog about a week or two ahead of time, so it gets into the dog's system before the 4th of July. So it's too late for this story for you to get it and actually have an effect on your dog, but it's a marijuana-based thing. So those of you that are all for legalized marijuana, you may be interested in that for your dog. And I'll find out the name, and I'll see if I can't put it in the comments. And I had it, but now I can't find my discussion with the person who used it. Let me just look one more time here. It's just not coming up. I know you guys love that dead air, but you can listen to the dogs barking outside in the kennel. My computer's running so slow, probably because I have all this stuff going on. I can see that some of the things are crashing here. Well, if it pops up, I will go down and look at it and give it to you. All right, so let's go on to another story here. And so I hope that that helps you out with regard to what you can do for the 4th of July. Those are some really good tips, and I'm so happy that I found an article where a trainer was talking about it, because sometimes I feel like I talk about it, and there's maybe a few people that say, what does he know? And well, I slept at a Holiday Inn Express, and so I know that I'm really skilled because I did that. But I have been doing this for a really, really long time and know something about dogs, right? So, all right, so we're going to go here to our next story, and that is on... wow, this computer is just working so slow. So I apologize for all this looking down and not paying attention to you guys. I really am You are important to me. All right, so a Labrador joins. Well, everything's frozen up. I hope you guys can see me. Because at least the web pages are all frozen up on me here, and I can't get to any of them. I can't even tell. We'll find out later on. All right, Rhea laid on a cushiony bed, her head on her paws, eyes darting back and forth, catching people's movements and nostrils flaring as she took in all the many new smells bombarding her. Being the newest resident at Parsons Presbyterian Manor was a lot for the 3-year-old Labrador to take in with all the many changes she has experienced in recent weeks. First thing upon arrival, Wednesday morning, Rhea toured around the nursing home, meeting a lot of the people she would be living with. Megan Piggs, Parsons Presbyterian Manor Executive Director, said Leslie Keller was the person responsible for initiating Rhea being adopted for the residents. I took care of a lady named Maria that lived here. She absolutely loved dogs. She didn't get to bring her dog with her, so when I would bring my dog out to see her in her last months, she would perk up and smile and be happy. Keller said, I told Megan that that's what Maria's memorial money is going to go for is a dog to make other people smile, other residents, and make other residents smile. So that is just a fantastic use of a dog. And I'm going to end up talking about my friend Sally Frost again here, and that if you have a dog that is particularly good around people, that will hug on them and kind of lay their head on their lap and maybe even perform a few tricks, and is very, very sociable and loving, becoming a therapy dog is the greatest thing. It's satisfying for both you and the dog. The dog gets to get out and do things and visit other people and be with other people. There's probably nothing better that you can do with your dog than become a therapy dog team and visit senior living facilities, visit the vet hospital, to visit children's oncology centers with your dog. The dog just brings out the personality in people, where they're kind of laying there and just thinking about all the pain that they're in and the discomfort. And in the seniors are just saying, living day by day, just wondering when it's going to happen. It gives them something else to think about, and there's nothing better. And my friend Sally Frost, who's the essential oil specialist, she took her dog, a Newfoundland, a dog that she came to us because the dog was completely out of control. I've told the story before. She came to us. She was just a ragged mess. Her hair's all messed up. Her clothes are torn. And she just said, please help me with her dog. That dog, after training with us at Falco K9 Academy, you can find us on falcodogtraining.com also, you saw this change in this dog. You saw this change in Sally. She was no longer like, oh, I'm just getting my butt kicked by this dog. It's a rescue dog. I don't want to give the dog up. I just want it to work. And how come she's not like my other dog? All the things we hear from all the other people. And just to see that the dog came around and became just a pleasant dog to be around. That dog is now a therapy dog visiting homes just like this one in this story. And I don't think anything could be better. I don't think you can do anything better. If you have a dog that can be trusted around people and just loves to hug on people and put their head on people's laps and that kind of stuff, like I said, it would be great. And you just train the dog a few tricks like shake and that kind of stuff. I'm trying to look and see where the story's out of. Parsons, Kansas City. Kansas. No, just Kansas. And Parsons, Kansas. So, great. So think about that. Think about what you would do with your dog to get your dog trained well enough to be a therapy dog. It's fantastic. It really is a good thing. It's not that hard, right? You just need the obedience. You need to be able to control your dog. And we do some therapy dog training here. Just give us a call, and we can help you through the process. Where we would start you, if you don't have any training at all, is in our basic obedience class, so you can understand the principles of obedience. And then from there, you would then go through the testing of being a therapy dog, and then get certified. And your certification, you would take that to the facilities and say, my dog's a certified therapy dog, and do you have a time that we can come by and just visit with the folks here, so that my dog can help them feel better about what it is that's going on. So my websites are all completely slammed. And for some reason, they have all gone down. So I'm just going to tell you about the other stories. Let me try one more thing. So you see me kind of operating my computer here and looking down. I'm trying to see if I can't save. Now they just all crashed. And it's probably because I have so many tabs open. Those of you that know computers and saw my my browser, you're probably looking up and said, wow, you guys got 30 windows open. No wonder his computer's running so slow. It's because I was doing a bunch of research and looking at a bunch of stuff this morning. All right, so we're just I'll share the link that I have for the Long Beach patrol dog that was shot. And so what happened is that it was a barricaded suspect who was armed, who they believed to be armed, and he was armed with a knife. They were trying to get him into custody. The guy comes out, he has a knife, and starts running out the door, I believe, or running out or running towards the officers with the knife. The police dog was sent, and at that moment, when the dog got there, another officer had already had begun setting up for a shot and took the shot at the time the dog was on the suspect, and the dog got shot. So just these things happen. In law enforcement, nothing is perfect. We train in the academy. We train constantly, right? We're always going to schools. I've been all over the United States at different police schools. I've traveled all over the United States to teach police officers skills about police work and that kind of stuff. And the one thing that comes up often is officers go, what if I'm in this situation and then I need to do this? I said, well, here's something you could do. If this is the exact situation, you could do this. But I always preface that, every situation is different, and you're going to have to take into consideration a whole bunch of things, right? And so your background, what's in the background? If you're deciding to shoot, what's in the background, right? It's not just what is the person holding. Before you shoot, you have to be aware of what the background is. Is the guy standing in front of a crowd? It's probably not a very good idea to take that shot, because not only if you miss, sometimes bullets go through people, because if you just get a piece of them, it's going to go through and you may hit somebody, or it may ricochet off a big part of the bone, like the femur. It actually can ricochet off and go in different directions. So there's things that are happening. And so there's just all these things that you need to take into consideration. Over the last couple of years, my friend Vic Steele, who is a real estate agent in Orange, he also was a police officer with the city of Orange. I trained him in his police dog. He typed me and said, man, what is going on with all these dogs being shot? It's like there just wasn't heard of when I was a K9 handler for Anaheim Police Department, and he was a K9 handler for Orange. It just was not heard of very often of dogs being shot. And there just seems to be, it's just either the internet is just making us more aware of it. Who really knows? So one of the things that reasons I started Falco K9 Academy back in the day was because I did not believe police officers were getting the training as handlers that they needed to have. They were getting training on how to do obedience, how to get their dogs to bite, how to get their dogs to release, and how to search for people in buildings, how to search for narcotics and that kind of stuff. But there wasn't a lot of training on tactics. There wasn't a lot of training on, oh, here we go. It finally popped up. They weren't getting a lot of training on, and so there's the picture of the police officer and his dog. And so there just wasn't a lot of training back there about these things, about tactics and that kind of stuff, how to use your dog in different situations, and what things you need to take into consideration. There wasn't anything whatsoever, I'm telling you, and I wanted to make sure that was one of the things that I changed with Falco K9 Academy. So most of our training was involved in scenario-based training, and I have even brought that over. So there's I can't get it to scroll up for you. It's just not going. Nothing's cooperating. There we go. Let's see there. Oop. There we go. Well, at least you can see the dog now. That's Credo. Credo was shot and killed in the line of duty. So, and so there's just not a lot of that stuff was being done. And so because we were the one thing we did have back in my day, there was beginning to be a lot of lawsuits. Dogs are being used in ways that they shouldn't have been used. Dogs are being used in situations that were questionable whether a dog should have been used or not. Remember back in the 60s when you see the videos of the dogs being used in the riots. And biting African Americans and that kind of stuff, and it's just so we take that stuff into consideration. Is a dog valuable in a crowd environment where there's potential rioting? No, dogs are not good in riots. Dogs are not good because you can only bite one person. Remember, it's a crowd of people you're worried about, not just one person. Now, they are okay behind the scrimmage line, and so if you have a bunch of police officers up with their helmets on, their shields and their sticks and that kind of stuff, and they're trying to push the thing, dogs are great back here. Because if you get one person that tries to bust through the line, they can take that guy and throw him back, to the canine handler. And if the guy doesn't give up, then you send the dog, and you're biting one person. The only problem with that is sometimes biting a person incites the riot, and now they really get pissed, right? And so the dog is really shaky whether you should have the dog there or not. But we used to practice that where we would walk behind a skirmish line. Did I say skirmish line? A skirmish line of police officers. So, and we would have bottles and sticks, and we would make noise, and we get a bunch of explorers to act as our riding crowd, and it used to be really fun. We'd have a good time, and we would get water, and then we'd do it in the summer, and then everybody would get wet and that kind of stuff. So it would be tons of fun. So we would do that training, but the likelihood of having a dog in a riot was not there. Now, decision making based on whether you use a dog or not. One of the things that you have to be very careful about is using your dog in a domestic violence. So, sure, in a 273, yeah, you know what a 273.5 is? A domestic violence, a felony domestic violence. Sure, the guy is dangerous to the wife, right? He's either beaten her, kicked her, or hit her with something. It's a felony. But the problem with using your dog in that case is that quite often when you bite the guy because he's hiding somewhere or he's running away or something like that or running towards you, is that now the wife turns on you and says, why did you bite my husband? He wasn't doing anything. I deserved it. And all this thing turns around. And now the victim becomes the witness for the husband who had beaten her. One of the things that I had when I was in domestic violence, when I was a detective in domestic violence detail, is a bell. I hung a bell that you find on a boat, and I hung it above my desk. And every time that a wife or a girlfriend would call and recant, we called it the recant bell. We'd ring the bell when she would say, he really didn't hit me. I fell. He didn't do it. I made him do it. Whatever it was, whenever they tried to get him back out of jail because they realized that now the guy that is in jail is the person who goes to work and makes the money and takes care of them, they would often call. And so that's what happens. And so you have to be very careful in domestic violence. So that needs to be taught. Right? Learberg. Yes, is that Learberg? Who is? I can't see who's typing that on Periscope. But and that kind of thing. Now, in tactics, SWAT team tactics, when you're using a dog in SWAT team tactics, number one, we realize the dog is being used in a situation that is very, very dangerous, right? We're going in for somebody because we know that they are armed and dangerous. We know that they are somebody that is going to hurt us, is going to hurt somebody else if they get away. That's why SWAT is called. SWAT is only called because the person that we are after, or multiple people that we are after, are very, very dangerous, and we think they're going to shoot or try to kill somebody. That's what SWAT team was for, right? Special weapons and tactics team. And so the police dog being used in that, we know that it's very risky to use the dog. And if we use the dog in a search for such a suspect, that the likelihood of him being killed is pretty high, right? But we have to remember, it was a Belgian Malinois that was killed in Long Beach. And so when deciding to use the dog on a SWAT team deployment, really the only use for the dog, not the only, but one of the primary uses for the dog is to search for the dangerous suspect that we can't find. So let's say he runs into Big Five, like we had one in Big Five. Suspect was in there. He armed himself because back then Big Five had a bunch of guns, and they still may have weapons. And when he broke in there, and we knew he was probably in there to get the weapons. When we went in after him, we did not know where he was inside that building, so we had to use one of our police dogs. We used Dingo, I think it was Chuck Knight's dog, and Dingo went in there. I'm pretty sure it was Dingo. Anyway, the dog went in there and searched, and then came back with blood on his paws. The dog didn't know how to bite a dead person. The guy had shot himself. But that was a good use of the dog because we did not know where he is, and we knew he was armed and dangerous. And you can't go around sticking your head in boxes and in closets to see if the guy is there because we know he's armed and dangerous, right? And so we use the dog to search and see if he's hiding behind some door or inside of a box or up on a shelf or behind some curtains, whatever the case may be. The other use may be as a perimeter support. where the dog is outside a window. As they're going in, they bust down the door to go inside the building. If the guy jumps out the window, they can send the dog to take the guy out before he gets away. Great use for a SWAT dog. Great use for a dog in that situation. You would also maybe have a dog going in with a team and searching individual rooms. Again, if we don't know where he is. I'm going to bring you to a situation where I was involved in. It was on East Street. Nope, not East Street. Anyway, it was in Anaheim because that's where I work. It was, gosh darn it, what was the name of the street? Oh, shoot. Sunkist. It was on Sunkist, and it was an apartment building. And I got called. I was the SWAT dog on duty that night, and so we were called, and the suspect was armed and dangerous. He was actually shooting into the walls and the ceiling in an apartment. Very bad. And so we get there, we surround the place, we develop a plan to go in, and they call me in and they say, Andy, we need you to send your dog to take the guy out. And I said, no, that doesn't make any sense. We know the guy. We knew where the guy was because he kept shooting, and he was in the back bedroom. I said, it doesn't make any sense. That we know where he is. The guy's in there shooting. I know he's in this corner bedroom right here where that window is. And there was at the command post, there was a map, and there was a design of the thing. And I said, he's right there. That's what we know where he's at, right? And he's yelling and screaming. So it's not like we don't know where he's at. The dog's not going to go in there and take the gun away, right? The dog's not going to go in there and tackle him, and the gun falls on the ground like it does on television. No, the dog's going to go in there, and the guy's going to shoot him. I said, I think it was the sergeant I was talking to at the time. I said, Sarge, listen. I said, the dog. I said, I'll send the dog in. I said, it's not that I think the dog is more valuable than human life that's going in there. It's just the dog is not going to tell us anything. The only thing we're going to end up with is a dead dog, and the guy's still going to be in that apartment, and he's still going to be in that bedroom, and he's still going to have the gun. Right? They get this belief, and even handlers get this belief that the dog is going to do something with that suspect, right? And take him out in a manner that's going to allow you to enter the building a little bit more safer, not in an armed and not in a SWAT deployment. And after some discussions, they finally understood and they agreed, you know what, you're right. What good is that going to do us? I mean, even if the dog is in him, nobody's going to want to shoot him. Or they're going to hesitate. And I'm going to say, don't hesitate. If the dog is on him and he has the gun, he's pointing at you, shoot him. Right? That you have to, because the human life is more valuable than the dog. Now, I know there's people out there that disagree with me, but the human life is more valuable than the dog. So if the dog is on the suspect and the guy brings the gun around and the dog's on his body and he's going to shoot, you got to shoot the man. You just have to. There is no doubt about it. So, I said the dog is not going to give us the advantage that you think he's going to give us, right? We're going to be at more advantage if the dog isn't in the thing. The dog's going to be a distraction. The dog is going to be in the way, and it's going to be one more thing we have to worry about as we're going in to take this guy out. So they finally said yes. We had a few arguments, but they finally agreed. So, if Chuck Knight is watching this, he may remember that whole thing. It was pretty exciting. So. There was another one, just to quick, I do go on the side thread. There's one where we burnt down the apartment because we used the wrong, not me, I wasn't involved. They used the wrong gas. They used CN, which is a little bit more hot and flammable, and ended up burning down the apartment. So, okay, so that situation. Now, men with knives, suspects with knives, is a very dangerous thing for dogs. And in our training and I'm not saying the handler in Long Beach or the decision making in Long Beach was wrong at all. I was not there. Remember what I said in the beginning, every situation is different. Sometimes the guy has a knife and sometimes you don't, right? You have to do it based on how close the guy's coming to you. If the dog was the only thing that you had available at the time, the dog has to be sent. But just know for sure when you send your dog on a suspect with a knife, he's going to get stabbed. It's just history has told us that. Over the years, and I teach all my handlers, if you know the guy has a knife, it's very unlikely that you should send the dog. You can give me a scenario, and maybe I'll agree with you, but the dog is going to die. The dog is going to get stabbed. The dog is going to get gutted, and that is just what's going to happen with the guy with a knife. And so when I hear a guy has a knife, then I hear, why was the dog used? So in Long Beach, I bet you they had their reasons, and it was the right thing to do. Except for, I can tell you right now that I know that dogs don't do well with guys with knives. So whether the other officer shot him or did not, the dog was still in for a world of hurt because this guy obviously was desperate enough to probably stab the dog with a knife too. Here's a couple scenarios, and I'll tell you, these are just ones right off the top of my head, and I think I have about 10 man with a knife, dog killed scenarios. The only one that wasn't killed, and I don't think the dog in Huntington Beach was killed, but a dog was sent on a guy that had a knife. It was just a little pocket knife, that fold out pocket knife. They sent the dog. Dog got stabbed in the head 5 times, right? And the dog went to the hospital. Can't remember the dog's name, but that dog got stabbed. LA County Sheriff, and this one just blows my mind. I don't understand it. But dog, suspect underneath the house. I don't know if they knew the first time whether he was armed with a knife. I think that the story is that they believed he might be armed with a knife, but they didn't know for sure. So they sent the first Malinois in there. Dog goes under the house, finds him. You hear the guy, ah! And then you hear dog, yipe, yipe. And the dog comes out, I don't know how many stab wounds, but a couple, and comes out in stab wounds. And I think that dog survived, I think. It was a long time ago. So what do? They get another dog and they send another dog in there. What happens to that dog? Dog gets stabbed. Dog comes out. One of those dogs died. I can't remember which one. But why he was sending the second dog? You already knew the guy had a knife, and you already knew that he was willing to use it. All right. So I just want to get out there that trainers need to do a better job. It's not the handlers. Handlers only do what they're trained. Right? If the handler doesn't receive the training, he's got to make these decisions not based on any knowledge that he's received from the trainers. And I really just, any trainer that is watching that is involved in training police officers and their dogs, you really got to hit the tactics, you got to hit the scenario-based training really, really hard. In the International Police K9 Conference, where I taught for several years, that was really one of the most important things that we did, and the handlers loved it. Handlers love scenario-based training. I even do scenario-based training with our bed bug detection dogs. I do scenario training with our narcotics dogs and bomb dogs. We do scenario-based training. I'll put a hand grenade on the desk. They come in to do a search, and they're searching, and they don't see the hand grenade sitting on the desk. Sometimes I'll put a little wire to it so that it looks like it's a trip wire, and they continue searching, right? And they say, did you not notice the hand grenade that has a trip wire on it and when you came into the room, right? So these are things that get people to think about. Now what does that officer do when he comes in to do a search? He looks around, right? He looks for tripwires. If you never put tripwires in their training, bomb dog handlers will never look for tripwires. If you never put booby traps in a drawer or in something that causes it something to go boom, narcotics dog handlers don't learn to not open things before inspecting them first, because often narcotics traffickers, sellers booby trap the items, the things that they put the narcotics in, right? They open up and boom, they explode. There's things that happen. And so scenario-based training is so important. Putting handlers through this training, putting a decoy in a room with a knife and a bite suit, holding it over his head when they come to the door and saying, come out, I have a police dog, come out, I have a police dog. And the guy goes, you get that dog out of here, and holding a knife. I want to hear the handler said, I'm not going to send the dog, we're going to call SWAT. Because the dog's going to go in there and die, right? They're thinking that they're going to send the dog and then they're going to rush in because now the guy is distracted, right? Or the guy's going to get hit so hard that he drops the knife. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen like it does on TV. It might, right? It might. This dog, this Malinois, may be such a hard charger, and God bless that dog for going in and doing his job, that he went in there and just hit that guy. The dog doesn't know the guy has a knife, right? He's going to go in full force, hit that guy, and then who knows what happens, right? The dog may hit him so hard that he knocks him down, but the guy will stab him when he's on the ground. It's just one of those things you have to consider. And I put these things on the trainers. These are on the not the handlers, not the poor officer that shot the dog. That guy must feel miserable. I know that he just feels horrible. I feel so badly about that. How do you train a dog to be 100% obedient? Oh, 100% obedient. I may have to get back to that question. I can't see who's writing those questions because it's so far away, and my eyes aren't what they used to be. So I hope I've massaged this correctly, because I don't want to take away anything that happened there in Long Beach. It's tragic. I was not there. That's a different situation. The dog was sent. The decision was made to send the dog. That had to be a good one. The other officer had to protect the police officers that this suspect was running towards, and he made the right decision. This is just something that happens in police work. Police work is not perfect. Accidents are made. I love or hate. I love because I think it's just so silly, and I hate so many of these lawsuits and these stories that come out about how horrible police officers are. They have, and I'm retired now, so I shouldn't say we all the time, but then I've had to handle up to 45 to 50 calls a night, right? 45 to 50 calls a night. I had a ride along with me once, and in the first 2 hours of the shift, and it was a 12-hour shift, the first 12 hours shift, I had gone code 3 times to different calls, right? And as a K9, you go all the way across the city. After my third code 3, she asked to be taken back to the station because she couldn't take it anymore. She couldn't take it because of the driving, the seriousness of the calls we were going on, and she was about ready to throw up because I was driving on the opposite lane of traffic, going through red lights, right? And so she had enough. But 12 hours. You're going to 50 to 60, maybe 60 calls. I think on a busy night, on a Friday or Saturday night, you could get up to 60 calls where you're making decisions. Things are happening. People are throwing stuff at you. People just say you're the biggest piece of caca out there and yelling at you and screaming at you. Next thing you have a kind old woman who just hears a noise and she wanted to be visited by the police officers. And the next minute you're chasing somebody through the alley, right? And so you go through these things. You got to make these decisions so quickly, and nothing can be taken away from police officers when they make a decision and something bad happens. It's just bad things can happen. We can make mistakes. We can make the wrong decision, right? I have no regard for officers that begin yelling and screaming at people on camera. There's just silliness, right? They're just like, yelling at people that are crossing the road and jaywalking. How dare! And they get all up, their necks bulge, and I just look at them like, you're crazy. This is not the job for you. You have to be able to handle each call as it comes and always start at the lowest level possible, right? The calm, how are we going to solve this problem? How can we help you? How can we keep this fight from continuing, right, when their neighbors are fighting with each other, or the husband and wife are? How is it that we can help you make sure that this doesn't happen, at least for tonight? What is it we can do for you? Can I give you a ride somewhere? I would give husbands a ride to their friend's house. We would call a taxi cab. Didn't have Uber back when I was a police officer, but whatever it would take, sometimes you just do it, right? And you do it in a manner that is going to be good for everybody, the citizens of Anaheim or whatever city that the police officer works in, and then solve the problem. When you have situations, a guy come running at you with a knife, you got to make a decision fast. You have seconds. We have a training about armed, it's called edge weapon training, and the video talks about that you will, if you have your hand, I think the training is you actually have the gun pointed at somebody with a knife. If the guy was within 10 feet, he can stab you with that knife before you pull the trigger. Right? That's the training that we get, and it's proven. Right? They'll give you a dry gun. Right? They'll take the bullets out, and you'll do a dry fire, and you have somebody standing there with a knife and just talking. You're trying to negotiate with them, and the guy's saying, I hate the situation that I'm in, and I'm just ready. I feel like I'm ready to kill somebody, or I'm going to slice my wrist, and you got your gun pointed. No, listen, calm down, and the guy just turns and runs and stabs you, and you don't get the bullet off. I think it's within 10 feet. So edge weapon training, and so we get that training, right? We're told that we don't have time, right? So that's training that we do get. All police officers get that training, right? And so you have a matter of time. So do you think that dog, how effective is even a Malinois that hits like a truck, right? These things hit so hard, going to be effective at somebody running? We don't know. Sometimes the dogs miss, right? You just don't want to take that chance, right? So you got to take fire. So the officer that shot the dog, Phil, so he made the right decision. That guy needed to be taken out. The unfortunate thing is the dog was on him, and that handler made the decision, and again, rightfully so on that day, at that time, in those circumstances, but it's just something that happens. But trainers, please do your jobs and do scenario-based training. Get these handlers trained to make some decisions in a manner that keeps both them and the dog safe. And there's still times we're going to lose a dog. In Palm Springs, I trained a dog named Ike with Junior out there in Palm Springs. That dog was used, and that dog saved lives. That guy came at them with a gun. He was shooting. They were shooting back. The dog came out, took that guy out. The dog took a bullet and went down. The dog. That was the only thing that they could do. There was 2 hours. They were being ran upon. They were coming towards them. There was just so much happening that the dog just had to be used. There was no other choice the suspect actually got shot in the police car right after the dog got shot. The dog got shot and killed. The suspect made it into the police car, was in there trying to get the car and drive, and the officers had to take him out. Things happen. Things happen. So I hope I address that correctly and make sure that these are the types of things that need to come out. They need to come out in a timely manner, because in 4 weeks we're going to forget about it, and nobody's going to talk about these things. But trainers, if you're watching this, just do a better job of training handlers in scenario-based training. Give them good direction. Talk about how you might handle situations and that kind of stuff. And just God bless Credo and make sure that he's up there doing his police work up there in doggy heaven. All right. So FalcoDogTraining.com. Go ahead and go. Oh, the 100%. How do you train a dog to be 100% obedient? You work at it every day. You have good rules and boundaries that you adhere to every day. You're consistent. If you dog lives within a family, everybody has to be on the same page. and you select the right dog. If you want a dog to be 100% trained, you have to find the correct dog. There's many trainers that only train a specific dog. They're very narrow in their scope of dog that they can train. I don't even know if this was a serious question, but I'm going to handle it anyway. Very narrow, right? So they fit only into their training scheme the dog that will fit within their training abilities. So dog trainers sometimes at parks, they don't allow, and many of you know somebody that got kicked out of dog training, right? The dog came in, they go, we don't handle that kind of dog. No, your dog doesn't fit here. No, your dog, it doesn't meet the criteria, right? Because they see something in the dog that they can't handle. So many trainers, they know how to do a couple things. They know how to get the perfect dog obedient, right? And so that's the kind of dog they train. So you get a dog fairly obedient. No dog is 100% in anything. No human being is 100% in anything. But to get as close to 100%, you need to have the right dog. You need to have the right consistency, the right rules and boundaries in place for that dog. Some dogs require different rules and boundaries than others. You need to have a great relationship with your dog. And so you can get fairly close to 100% if you have all those things in mind. The right dog, the right training, consistency, rules and boundaries, and a good relationship. You need to have those 5 things. And you can have a very well-trained dog. Our dog, Hazel, fantastic. Dog was born that way, right? The dog's not 100%, right? And so, because she chews things in the backyard every so often, right? She'll eat a shoe if you leave it out there. And so is that 100% obedient dog? No, because she eats, we told her, don't eat the shoe, and she eats it anyway. And so to get 100% is impossible, just impossible. But you can get very close with the right dog, the right training, right relationship, and all the other stuff that I mentioned. And so you can try that. And now you have dogs that have issues, baggage, and that kind of stuff. You're always managing that dog. Let me just talk about that dog before I sign off. I know some of you are getting ready to hit the button or getting ready to put your phone away. Sally Frost is getting ready to blow dry her hair. What happened the other day? We got a call about a dog that bit somebody after a year of being in our training, right? And so this dog we knew had aggression. We trained her about her dog's aggression. We trained her about managing that aggression. We trained her very well, right? And so the dog has obedience. The dog does the things that is required within the rules and boundaries of the home. But we know that dog's personality is one that cannot be trusted around people, because the dog has shown aggression. Now, that dog can be taken out and taken into the situation. The dog, as long as the dog is with the human being, right, on leash or off leash, as long as they are, the dog knows when I'm with my human being, I have to be obedient, right? But when you leave a dog that has a propensity to be aggressive alone, or the dog gets out of the backyard, which is a case that happened in this dog, and nobody's home, the dog goes out and bites somebody, the dog has made the decision on its own because you're not there to help it be obedient, right? And so management, we talk about training and management. Some dogs, you do training and the management is very minimal. Our dog, Hazel, management is not leaving your shoes outside, right? You have to manage that. Where if you didn't have a dog, right, you could leave your shoes anywhere, right? So there's things we have to change, some things we have to baby-proof like we do for when a baby comes in. So we have to dog-proof our home and no longer can have the things that we would have if the dog wasn't there, right? So we manage the environment, we manage the doors, we manage the dog, and that is for the life of the dog. It doesn't change, especially if you have a dog that's aggressive. Right? So in training, you can teach the dog to be controlled under specific circumstances. However, when the dog is on its own device, you have to make sure and put up the shoes. You got to make sure and close the gates and that they're locked and secured, right? And when you leave, maybe the dog has a propensity to jump over the fence when you're gone. The dog needs to go in a crate or a kennel when you're gone, in a secured location with a roof on it, right? And so those are management tools. And so make sure that when you get your training, especially if you're with somebody else and they don't teach you this, and your dog has shown to be aggressive, that you have to make sure that you understand there's both training and management with those kinds of dogs. You have to do both. And the management doesn't stop after you go to training. That's what I think these people felt, that, the dog's trained, so I no longer have to manage the gate and what happens at the gate and that kind of stuff. So, all right. Hope that all was helpful. I hope that you enjoyed our stories. Make sure and subscribe and like and share and give it to your friends and let them see this. If there's dog lovers out there that you know of that might enjoy this show, tell them about it. Share this on their Facebook page and let them know.